Man, we got a packed crowd today. It's good. Welcome, everybody. I want to first take a moment to acknowledge the 30th anniversary of the bombing. It was a really, really dark day in our state's history, but evil did not overcome. Oklahomans responded by running towards the danger and lending a hand to their neighbor. And as we honor those we lost on that terrible day, I want to remind Oklahomans to keep that spirit. And at the end of the day, we are not very different from each other. We're all Oklahomans. We all want what's best for our state. And I think that's, I need the help from the media and to keep that in mind as we're trying to make Oklahoma a top 10 state in everything that we do. I also want to take a moment to address some of the headlines around mental health. There have been headlines and people have been asking me, and I think people have been reporting sometimes that we're cutting services or we're cutting contracts. And I want to assure Oklahomans that we are providing the same dollars. We're not cutting any kind of services. There are some contracts that we're certainly going through that maybe the RFP process wasn't done accurately, and so we want to re-put those out there. But we've worked really, really hard to make sure that Oklahomans, there's no interruption in services, and Oklahomans can get the care that they need. And like I've reminded people before, we keep investing more money in mental health, and I think it's close to $800 million that we're spending. About 385 or so is appropriated by state dollars. The rest are federal dollars. And that appropriations from the state level has gone up. You guys can double check it, but definitely for the last 3 years. And probably it's actually 387 million here. So we're going to keep working to find efficiencies. That's my job as governor. I'm going to be continuing to push state government to be more efficient and make sure that those dollars are on target, helping out Oklahomans and accomplishing the mission that these agencies are set out to accomplish. So with that, let me open it up to questions. And I think we've got a microphone here. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Nice. Hey, good afternoon, Governor. I'm with News Channel 4K4. You talked about people, heads of agencies, receiving a lot of money from salaries. Doing this in the past couple of weeks. Now it's an issue in some places. We just pushed this out at the State Department of Education. The chief policy advisor there, Matt Langston, got a $40,000 bonus in December or January. And we just found out their former communications director, Dan Isett, got a $76,000 paycheck on the way out the door. When it comes to DOGE and finding wasteful spending, I guess I'll get your reaction to that. And then why aren't we finding it there? Is that not an example of it, I guess?
So State Department of Education reports up to a separately elected person. And, but yeah, I mean, I think we should be looking at all those things. I appreciate you digging into that. Those are things that we need to ask those questions. We need to hold our legislators responsible to, ask those questions, put that in, maybe put that in statute, have a track on how much bonuses you can pay. I don't know specifically whether that person earned a bonus or not, or what they did for it. But I will tell you that that's the problem with state government, in my opinion, and I've shared it several times to Oklahomans, is you elect a governor and you say, Governor, we want you to go fix state government and do this and do that, but then you don't give the governor control to hire and fire people. So, and then when I do fire people, man, everything comes undone, right? Everybody starts spinning if the governor tries to fire someone. Well, people want their governor to hold people accountable and make decisions. But we have, besides the board, which we're doing things on the board there to try to hold people accountable all across state government. But as far as the Department of Education, I don't have any direct authority over the bonuses paid to people in that specific state agency. Now, if the legislature wants to give me that authority, that I will make decisions and try to hold people accountable. But it's just kind of the way our system is set up. And I've just said, hey, do it for the next governor. Don't do it for me. Grandfather all the statewide electeds in right now. But it is a weird, jacked up system. I've used this example. This makes sense to me, and I think most Oklahomans. When you hire a football coach and we tell them to go win a national championship, we don't tell them that they can't hire their own offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, or special teams coach. You let them hire their own staff. Well, government's different. You hire a governor, but then you say you really can't hire this person that runs all these state agencies. They report to unelected boards and commissions, and that's the problem with state government. So again, great point. Keep pointing those things out and keep holding us accountable to the spends in state government. I think it's a good question. Yes, sir.
I've got a couple for you. First, any update on this? Oh, okay. Any update on this wildfire conservatory group? Or sorry, wildfire working group, I should say. Got it.
Yeah. So I think they're meeting. I just talked to Secretary Blaine Arthur. I think they're meeting tomorrow with Tricia Everest, Public Safety, and maybe a few other people. We've given her. There's been several retired firefighters that have come forward to help her, that she's actually going to be interviewing to put it as an interim role over forestry, just to give her a perspective and really help hire that full-time replacement. So we should find out a little bit more. I think they're going to have a meeting later on this week, and we'll report back to you. Yes, sir.
There's a bill that's advancing that would prohibit the governor from ordering any business to close during the pandemic unless there's clear evidence that business contributes to the spread. So I'm curious about if you feel like the state should take guidance from the federal government, and if you have any regrets about your own decisions when the businesses close during the pandemic.
I'm supportive. I'm supportive of that bill. Basically, there were states that were closed down for 2 years during COVID, and there were school districts that were closed for, you guys remember that. Tulsa was closed for 355 days, and we hammered them every single day. President Trump during that, initial time, I think the whole country was. We've learned a lot from COVID, and every leader had a difficult decision. There were leaders of businesses, and there were leaders in the athletics and the NFL and NBA, and everybody was dealing with uncertainty during that time. And I think President Trump asked every state to, you remember 15 days to slow the spread. Remember, that's kind of how it started. And so we took President Trump's advice at that point, and we probably just slowed everything down for the first 15 days or 20 days or something like that. But we quickly opened back up. And so I applaud the legislature for looking at this, because if we, God forbid, had a governor that decided to close down for months and months and years, like some of the other states, I think we should be able to push back on that. But taking guidance, your question there, sure, we're going to take guidance from all the professionals and our healthcare providers here locally and our Department of Health, and it's a team effort, and not one person has all knowledge. So we're going to look at all those things and try to keep Oklahoma protected. But I think most people agree. I was one of the only governors that did not do a mask mandate statewide. And most people agree that you don't put our U.S. Constitution in the attic just because somebody in Washington, D.C. tells us to. And so I think that's probably the intent of this bill, is to protect our rights as citizens and as an Oklahoma citizen. And that's something that I appreciate. We'll look at all these bills as they come to my desk, but on its surface, it sounds reasonable to me. Yes, sir.
Governor, why is it necessary to have another investigation into the Department of Mental Health?
Well, I don't know about another investigation, but the reason that I wanted to bring someone in is because Allie, the current director, we've gone through, since I've been governor, this is my third director. And the first two was promoted from within. When I got here, I forget her name, and then I promoted up the lieutenant, and she became the director, and we moved on from her. And we kept thinking there's something wrong. And then really applaud Allie. She had to turn over. What you're seeing now is because she got rid of her CFO, and she got rid of like 4 or 5 of her lieutenants, and then everything started coming up. So sometimes when you have people at agencies that have been there for 30, 40 years, they're moving the ball pretty good. They understand how this building works, and they're paying every invoice, so nobody squawks. And if you listen to what Elon said, and I totally can see it when he's talking about Doge, the best way to make sure nobody makes ripples is just pay every single invoice, right? But as soon as you start questioning things and you start saying, hey, this contract doesn't sound right, I want to give the money over here to this vendor and this nonprofit's doing a better job. Well, these guys start spinning. They can afford to hire lobbyists, and they come up to this building, they start spinning everybody. And so you're seeing someone just trying to make government more efficient and actually get those dollars on target. And you're seeing the bureaucracy kick and scream as she is actually putting a spotlight on this stuff. And I tell people, let's shine a light on some of these dollars. Let's see where all the mice scatter to. And that's what you're seeing right now. The rats are running and they're screaming. And as we've talked before, I was very glad that one of the CEOs that I've been calling out for making $1.3 million at a nonprofit that's funded by the state, I was just told by my team that he lowered his salary to $800,000. So maybe I'll start talking about $800,000. Maybe he'll lower it again to $400,000, and we'll go from there. But I applaud him from going down from 1.3 to 800,000 of state money. Yes, sir.
Follow up on that, I was wondering if you could give me some clarity on the negotiation that the state undergoes with the providers and the contracts. My understanding is that the state sets the rates for how much the contract or these providers get in their contracts. Could you elaborate a little bit on that process?
It's a great question. I need to find out more information about how that works. But the numbers that I've seen, we have some providers charging the state, this is on the mental health side, up to $6,700 per patient per month. And then some are charging $2,700. So that's a question that we're all digging into. So yeah, I mean, listen, if you're in business and you can bill the state and they automatically pay that without asking questions, that's a pretty good business model. If you're in business and I can send unlimited invoices and I get paid, I bet you that some of those companies get pretty good at figuring out how to continue to bill the state. And that's what we're pushing back on. And normally government doesn't ask these questions, but in a state administration, we believe in lower government and flat budgets, and there's not an unlimited amount of funds of the taxpayer dollars. And so we're asking all those questions. How can we actually take care of mental health, get homeless off the street, get them the help they need? Let's remember, that's the big picture here, right? Is why do we still have homeless people in Oklahoma City and Tulsa and other communities when we're spending $800 million on that? What are those nonprofits doing? Other states do things differently. We spend a lot of money per capita on this mental health issue, and we're asking some tough questions right now to make sure it's done efficiently, and we're good stewards of the taxpayers' money. Yes, sir.
The House tomorrow has a select committee. They're going to look into the Department of Mental Health and everything. They have several members on it. House Speaker last week talked about how there just may be some information that you guys in the executive branch are getting differently from the legislature. Do you plan on having someone at that committee, and where do you hope it comes out of that?
I've heard that before, that they're getting different information. And listen, that's obviously the House, the Senate can ask these questions. They can investigate things, and I invite that, right? Shine a light. Help me hold the bureaucracy accountable. So I don't know what else to say besides if they find something that needs to be fixed, I'll be the first one to fix it. I'll be the first one to take action. And if we find someone that's cheating Oklahomans, I'm going to be the first one to either fire the bureaucrat or cancel that contract and redeploy that to someone that wants to do it the correct way. So I don't really know what they're after. Hopefully they're after the same thing I am, and that's to make sure that we hold our vendors accountable. We hold the bureaucracy accountable to spend tax dollars wisely. Trace. It would not be a press conference without a question from Trace, would it?
There you go. I'm trying to make it real long for you. You mentioned something earlier. You said you had three directors, Commissioner White, Commissioner Slatton Hodges, and now Commissioner Friesen. You said, I believe the quote was something along the lines of, we kept feeling like something was wrong. And I'm curious if you could take us back in time. How long ago did you get that sense? Was it something in particular? Was it the Super Bowl ad? Was it the Tulsa County contract concerns? Was it the hospital RFP? Like what? Take us back and when did you first get a sense something was wrong? Because you just said that. I had not heard that.
Man, the first, when you're talking up here, it's not to go down a rabbit hole and have guys like this call you out on what you're specifically talking about. It's been so long ago, I can't name a specific topic. But here's my when I first got in 2019, I really wanted a fresh set of eyes on everything. So I called for investigation and deep audits and really wanted to bring in a fresh set of eyes all across state government. So that was probably the first one. That probably happened pretty quickly. I can't remember when that happened, but the second one, here's the deal. When people that report to me come to me and everything's always working perfectly and they tell me they're not making any changes and nothing else is happening and they're not doing anything different that's been done for 20 years, unless you think government is working perfectly, I don't buy that. And so I'm always a little, maybe apprehensive or, I'm starting to, my red flag comes up when they tell me everything's working perfectly, right? Plus, when you're cozying up to the vendors and when you cozy up to all the folks that in this industry, we're supposed to be holding them accountable, not being their best friends, especially when we're funding $800 million to this industry. And we need to have a great relationship, but it's okay to have a little bit of, distance from those folks to hold them accountable. So I think that's ultimately what we were feeling, and then had Allie come in, and then plus, we have advisors that we hear from constantly from different agencies, and we're always trying to do the best we can with our taxpayer dollars. So, thank you.
Thanks again, Governor. Your thoughts on the bill moving along to reform the Judicial Nominating Commission? Just reading it myself and my understanding, inserting some politics there, removing those restrictions and making the terms longer, with the exception of the at-large member. Could you just comment on that and, in light of the Supreme Court decision that you made, court decision appointing that you made, Travis Jett, and kind of how you're thinking about that and how to move forward?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the bill in specifics, but I think I know what you're talking about. But I think the Bar Association, their nominees can stay like unlimited or for multiple years, and then all of my picks maximum is 2 years. So it's a little bit unfair there on the JNC. I don't know if it's trying to get rid of the JNC. There's some House and Senate members that think it's called the Missouri plan to try to fix, and this is how we put judges forward. It's the system that we've worked with. I've put 4 people on the Supreme Court, so to me, it's working okay. Would I rather have the governor just choose? Yes, and the reason I think that's the best model, it's the federal model, is because number one, when you're recruiting people, we had 14 people apply for this position, right? And they had to be from a certain area of the state, instead of the governor having to go recruit someone, right? So I think that to get the very best and brightest and to be able to get the best pool of people into these different positions, sometimes you have to go recruit them. You have to go make some phone calls. You have to say, hey, I really need you to apply. And when you have all these restrictions around, it's difficult. Plus, I know how the sausage is made on that. And on one day, they had to interview all 14 of them. So they're literally 20-minute, interviews. We had a Harvard graduate, one of the guys that graduated from Harvard Law School, and you could argue he was the former Solicitor General for the state of Oklahoma, had great credentials, and he didn't even make it through to my desk. And so there's some questions that you ask yourself in a 20-minute, just sitting down in a room with 14 people for one day and interviewing. Is that the best method to actually pick for the Supreme Court? So other states do it differently, of course. The federal model is the president picks and then the Senate confirms. So there's a lot of different things, but overall, I haven't been that disappointed because I've got 4 really, really strong, good picks on the Supreme Court. So it's worked for me, but I'm just thinking for the future of Oklahoma, when we elect our next governor, you got to trust that person, that man or woman, to lead our state, and they're trying to put the very best people on these courts. And so I ultimately probably think that's the best method for all the reasons that I just said. So thanks, everybody. Thank you.